In this lesson, we'll be talking about what disconnects you from your joy. Here's what we'll cover in this lesson. We're going to look at the areas in your life that you would like to reconnect to your joy, the actions that you often make that disconnect you from your joy, as well as the unconscious program that's running in the background that disconnects you from your joy. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at what disconnects you from your joy. Remember the iceberg we looked at in Module 1, where we looked at the tip of the iceberg stating how you were feeling, which might have been you feeling low or anxious, and then the middle of the iceberg, which showed all the reasons why you might be attributing that anxiety or depression or anger or whatever it is that you're feeling. But then the bottom part of that iceberg, which is that lack or that sense of fear. So if you look back at what you thought your fear and your lack was, then that is your first clue as to what's disconnecting you from your joy. So remember, in any situation, if we're not feeling joy in that moment, it's because that third layer of that iceberg is being triggered in some way. So either our fear or sense of lack is being deeply triggered. Once you've worked out what it is, you don't have to overanalyze it. You don't necessarily have to go, oh, well, that came from my childhood of this happening, or that came from this situation when I felt that way. Because remember, we're not trying to engage your thinking and your feeling brain back into those old patterns of fear or lack. Because the more you focus on something that you don't want or that you're afraid of, then you're running that program again over and over and over again. So don't waste your time trying to analyze where that feeling of lack came from or what that fear is coming from. Just identify it as existing, and then we'll talk about what to do with it next. So remembering from the previous slide, once you have identified what thoughts and feelings you want to predominantly have in each area of your life, that then becomes the primary focus of what you want running your life. So for instance, if you want to feel fulfilled at work, or you want to feel deeply cherished and loved in any relationship, then you start to focus on how to create that feeling for yourself, independent of the person, place, or time. And then from that space, you can then carry out actions accordingly. But in order to do that, you first have to remember to prioritize your joy, prioritize yourself to experience that joy. And if you have any doubts about whether you should be prioritizing that joy, think about the impact that this disconnection is having not only on you, but on all the people around you. Sometimes we may not even feel motivated to prioritize ourselves for feeling and connecting to the joy. But take a moment while you've got your journal there. Think about the impact that this disconnection is having not only on yourself, but on all the people around you. So take a moment to write that down. One of the biggest things in this whole process of connecting to your joy is learning to trust yourself. Learning to trust your voice inside of you and your feelings, because you know when you are in your joy. You know when something makes you smile from inside out. So you need to trust that when you are disconnected from that feeling of joy inside out, it means you're not in true alignment with yourself and that which brings you joy. which means that your thinking brain and your feeling brain are not really in alignment with what brings you joy. Let me give you an example. So for instance, if you are in a room and you are not feeling joyful, after you've examined your thoughts and feelings about being in that room, so for instance, if you're thinking, gosh, I'm so bored being in this room, gosh, I'm feeling really bored being in this room, then no matter what is happening in that room, because you've got your I'm feeling bored glasses on, everything is going to be boring for you. But once you've investigated whether those are your thoughts and feelings, and then you've decided that you're going to shop for different feelings, so you might say, well, actually, I feel really contented in this moment. I feel really peaceful in this moment. And you've got your peaceful, contented glasses on. You then have a space where you are now connecting into a different space inside of yourself, because your thinking brain and your feeling brain are both focused on how you are feeling contented. And as you do that, then it's time for you to engage your heart, the electromagnetic field of your heart. So you can put your hand on your heart and say, for instance, whatever it is that you wish to feel, which might be, I feel so deeply contented in this moment. And as you do your heart-centered breathing that we've talked about, you might give gratitude to any moment in your life that you felt contented. And as you do that, automatically there might be an image or some form of action that you think you would love to take that will actually spring forth for you. And then you carry out that action, and then that reinforces that whole neural pattern of contentment again within yourself. And that's how you break that cycle of disconnection. So now remember the areas in your life that you felt like you would like to reconnect to your joy. So when you looked at the areas in your family, your friendships, your work life, your body, and so on and so forth, you identified certain thoughts and feelings that you had been shopping for that you didn't really want to shop for. So those are the areas in your life where you may be feeling that sense of lack, emptiness, or disconnection. Another way to think about it is, what areas do you actually feel sad or unfulfilled in? Those are the areas that you would like to reconnect back to joy. Now take a closer look at the actions that you might be taking regularly that disconnect you from your joy. So, what actions do you take on a regular basis that create stress for you? This might be, for instance, overeating at meal times. That might be an action that creates stress for you. Or it might be going to bed really late. Or it might be leaving things till the last minute. That then creates something stressful for you. Another way to have a look at this question is, what actions actually create sadness for you? What actions do you do that make you sad? Perhaps another way to look at this is, what actions do you take that are controlling in your life? Because often when we're trying to control things, we're coming from a space of fear, because we don't want to feel that feeling or emotion. We try and control things so that we never experience it. But that is the fallacy in it, or the misconception that if we control a situation, we don't have to experience the fear of it ever happening. Because of course we can never control anything in life. The only control that we do have is our own inner environment. So where do you, instead of staying on your page where you're looking at what's going on with your thoughts and your feelings, constantly feel like you need to be on somebody else's page, judging what they're doing, judging what they're saying, or potentially even complaining about what they're doing or criticizing what they're doing, instead of actually looking at what is being deeply triggered for you. So for instance, if someone has said something that's really hurtful, I'm not saying don't take any action on that, but what I'm saying is before you do anything like that, have a look at what is being deeply triggered inside of you, what thoughts and feelings it's triggering inside of you that you're shopping for that you don't want, and what thoughts and feelings you would like to shop for instead in your inner space. Then connect back into your heart with a space of gratitude, and then from there see what action you would like to take that feels like it connects you to your joy. And you will know, because your entire body will completely light up if you are carrying out an action that is in alignment with your joy, because that is how smart and intelligent your body is. It is so wise because it literally communicates to you when you are having the thoughts and feelings that uplift it, as well as the actions that you take that uplift it, versus moving in the opposite direction where you may have thoughts, feelings, or actions that disconnect you from your joy. So here is where we look at the unconscious program that actually disconnects you. So here's where I don't want you to spend too much time on this, but what felt normal for you growing up? What was your environment like? Because remember that unconscious program gets created from the age of 0 to 7 years, and then even onwards from your early years. So without you realizing it, you may be unconsciously picking the same environment because that is what is familiar to you. Because that familiarity may give you this sense of feeling of high, if you like, because that is what you have associated safety with all your life growing up. So for instance, if you grew up in an environment where there was constant conflict, constant arguments, constant lack of safety, then that is actually what you have determined as your norm. So unconsciously, without realizing it, you will seek what matches that. So in relationships, you may actually seek relationships that may constantly create conflicts for you, or you may introduce the conflict in your relationship, or you may constantly create feelings or situations that are unsafe for you if you grew up in an unsafe environment. But the way to break this unconscious program is for you to see whether this is what you truly want. And when you do your heart-centered breathing, you only have to breathe through that area, breathe through that heart region, and bring to image a particular situation and see whether you feel expanded. Because remember, the electromagnetic field of the heart expands with elevated emotions of gratitude, compassion, joy, and so on and so forth. But it actually contracts with the opposite emotions of sadness and disconnection and conflict and so on and so forth. So if you're not 100% certain if this is actually what you truly want, all you have to do is think of the situation, put your hand on your heart, do your breathing, and breathe with a space of gratitude for how you want to feel, and then bring forth that image and see whether you feel expanded or contracted inside of yourself. We now come to lesson 2.3, which will consist of the offerings of joy to your beautiful self. And I can't wait for you to connect to your joy, because this is one of the beautiful daily practices that you can build in your morning ritual or daily ritual. So this is your daily 3 minutes of connection. What I would like you to ask yourself is, How are you thinking at the moment, and how are you feeling in this moment? So if you can grab your journal and write down what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, and then I'd like you to ask yourself how you would like to think and feel in this moment in time, so that you can consciously change the program that's running through your thinking brain and your feeling brain. But first, you need to identify what your desires for this moment in time are. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes now to do that. Well done. That was time you took to connect to your thinking brain and your feeling brain, as well as your heart, when you tried to work out how you would like to feel. This is a daily practice that is so important to do, and you can do it any number of times in the day. The more you check in with yourself, the more you understand whether you are working from a program in your brain that you have created, or whether you're just reacting and responding to an unconscious program in your brain. And remember, the more control you have over which thoughts and feelings you choose for yourself, the more you have control over whether your heart is in that expanded electromagnetic state or not. And expanded electromagnetic fields around the heart correlate with increased coherence between the brain and the heart. So now it's time to connect with nature. I'd like you to take your journal and just write down how you would like to connect with nature today. Remember, it can be something as simple as sitting out in nature, just for a few minutes, just feeling the wind in your hair and just using all your senses to be mindfully present. And you can do that even if you just have a flower in your home. Just use all your senses to mindfully connect with that part of nature. I'd also like you to now just spend a couple of minutes working out 3 things that you can do from that space of connectedness within yourself to connect to your joy today. 3 simple things. Keep it really simple. I'll give you a few minutes to do that now. So now I'd like you to take your journal and your pen and write down 3 sentences of gratitude for anything that you genuinely feel gratitude for. Writing it down takes effort, but it is a way of even more solidly retraining your brain, your thinking brain, and engaging your feeling brain in the process of writing down the gratitude so that you can start to create the neural pathways in your brain that make it an automatic pathway that lights up in your brain and at the same time connects with your heart to connect you with that feeling of gratitude, which then also connects you with that feeling of joy inside. So just take a minute to do that for yourself right now. And remember, the most powerful times to do this are on waking up first thing in the morning or before bed, because that's when your conscious mind is easing into the unconscious mind, or awakening from the unconscious mind into the conscious mind when you're waking up. This last lesson, which is called the Whispers of Your Soul, this engages your intuitive brain and heart. This is a really crucial part of the whole lesson because it is the practical application of how you connect to your joy. So I'd like you to take a moment and take some big deep breaths in and out through your heart. And based on everything that you wrote in your journal about how you would like to feel today, I'd like you to make the statement of how you would like to feel. So say, I feel, and whatever it is that you actually feel. And now I want you to breathe deeply in and out of your heart. And remember the last time you felt that emotion that you want to create for yourself. And see if you can increase that intensity to about a 10 out of 10. And experience a deep sense of gratitude for being able to feel that way in that moment. Take yourself to that space. Listen to the sounds or the voices or the conversations that were taking place in that moment. Take in the scene of what you remember with your eyes. Any sense that were available for that moment. Your speech, your taste, the sounds, and what you were doing in your body in that moment. And re-experience it fully with your entire being. And from this space of great gratitude for this moment, ask yourself how you would like to run your entire day today in a space that connects you to your joy. Ask yourself how you would like to feel in each of the moments of the day. How would you like to feel in the morning? What do you see yourself doing that lights up your day? And what about in the afternoon? And in the evening? And just before bed? How would you like to feel? What do you see yourself doing? And now write that down in your journal. Because you have just connected the intuitive part of your brain and your heart. And you have just now placed a conscious program for yourself. And you have set the wheels in motion for connecting to your joy in a deep, deep level. And even if your day does not run exactly the way you intended it to. You can keep connecting back to that feeling of joy that you experienced in each part of the day. So here are some of the reminders of the 4 lessons. Make what sparks joy for you a priority. When you are in your joy, everyone around you feels it. And so it is not only a selfless act for yourself, but also a selfless act for others when you make your joy a priority. Identify what areas in your life you need to connect deeper to in joy. Once you've identified these areas, identify how you would like to feel in each of these areas. Be mindful and aware of the unconscious programs of lack or fear that hold you back, as well as the actions that you take that may sabotage you on a daily basis from connecting with your joy. And most importantly, continue with your daily offerings of joy to yourself. This last point, though simple as it may seem, is so vital and important, which is why I repeat the last 2 lessons in every module so that you can start to make this a natural groove in your brain to connect to your joy, so that this becomes an underlying program for you to keep being connected to your joy. Rumi says, when you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. When you are moving in flow with your soul, in connection with your joy, you know that you are in your flow. And this is why I really treasure and love this quote by Rumi. Thank you so much for joining me for this module. I can't wait to see you in the next module. Till then, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and stay connected to your joy, because you are worth it. You are enough.